Okay, so far so good. Mock vaccines reached RITM in Muntinlupa from NAIA in just 20 minutes. The government deems the simulation a success as they expect 117,000 doses of Pfizer shots to arrive next week.
Despite beating their time targets, the task force against COVID-19 hopes to shorten delivery times some more. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with the simulation exercise for the expected arrival of vaccines from the COVAX facility this month.
The dry run was well within the target time frame, though the vaccine czar still sees room for improvement. Greg Gregorio with The Big Story.
Past 10:30 in the morning, cargoes of mock COVID-19 vaccines were unloaded at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. A little over 11 a.m., they were already headed out of NAIA. For its simulation exercise of vaccine delivery, the National Task Force Against COVID-19 originally allotted 45 minutes from arrival, customs clearance, to transfer to refrigerated vans. But the dry run only took less than 20 minutes. Around 117,000 Pfizer shots are expected to arrive within the month via the COVAX facility. Upon arrival, the shots have to be delivered to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine in Muntinlupa. Escorted by police as they plied the skyway, the reefer vans arrived within target at 20 minutes. RITM is considered a vaccine hub. It has 5 ultra-low freezers which can operate up to -80 degrees, the storage requirement of Pfizer's vaccine. RITM's freezers may hold up to 231,200 doses each, or around 1.1 million doses. From RITM, the shots have to be prepared within 30 minutes for distribution to health facilities in Metro Manila. This includes the Philippine General Hospital, Jose N. Rodriguez Hospital, and the Lung Center of the Philippines. But they needed 47 minutes of preparation as they included deliveries to vaccine hubs in Cebu and Davao. Overall, the simulation took nearly an hour and a half, well within the target of 2.5 hours. But vaccine czar Carlito Galvez still sees room for improvement.
The more na we shorten the time, the more na nakita natin very precise yung ating execution.
The NTF plans to conduct another simulation for Pfizer shots. Health Secretary Francisco Duque estimates 58,000 individuals will receive Pfizer shots. Priority recipients include healthcare workers. And if there are still available shots, some government officials may also receive jabs to help boost vaccine confidence among the people.
Today will be subject to a review all the way to the transport of the vaccines to the actual unloading and receiving and inspection.
There will also be a different simulation for AstraZeneca's vaccines, which only require the usual 2 to 8 degrees cold storage. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The other big stories tonight, we speak to AFP Chief Cirilito Sobejana regarding the military's investigation on anti-insurgency task force spokesperson Antonio Parlade. Parlade recently made controversial remarks against an Inquirer reporter over an article on two-item men. Just hours ago, the Supreme Court junked the bid of the two-item men to intervene in the oral arguments against the anti-terror law. Retailers are still on pork holiday as they protest the price cap on meat products. The Agriculture Department sees no reason why vendors will not be able to comply. And in a one-on-one, exclusive and candid interview, find out Wonder Kid Kai Soto's preparations as he inches closer to joining the rest of the Gila squad. On day 2 of the oral arguments on the constitutionality of the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Supreme Court said it unanimously junked the plea of 2 detained Aitas to join the petitions. Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta disclosed the ruling after he cut short Solicitor General Jose Calida's supposed bombshell in today's oral arguments.
There is a supervening event after the conclusion of the oral arguments last February 2, 2021. This will affect not only the continuance of the oral argument, but the resolution of the pending petitions as well. Hence, I beg leave to be heard on an urgent oral manifestation, Your Honors.
Calida submitted video clips, transcripts, and affidavits of the two Aitas. The Soljan claims the two were forced to sign the petition in exchange for 1,000 pesos. The Zambales locals, Jasper Gurung and Junior Ramos, were the first to be charged with the contentious Anti-Terrorism Act. They claim military torture as they were forced, supposedly, to admit membership to the New People's Army. Their plea was reported by Inquirer journalist Tech Torres Tupas. This led to propagandist accusations against Tupas from Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr., NTF-LCAC spokesperson. Former Vice President Jejomar Binay says it is pointless to ask Parlade to resign as he is doing his benefactor's desires. Senator Ping Lacson, principal author of the Anti-Terrorism Act, says Parlade is hurting government's defense of the controversial law. President Duterte is looking to tap public school buildings as vaccination centers in urban areas once immunization programs are underway. During his public meeting with the IATF, the President said public schools should be utilized while there are still no face-to-face classes. He is also urging government workers not to delay what he says would be a smooth flow of vaccine deployment. The President made the same appeal to the Communist Party of the Philippines.
Allow the vaccines to be transported freely and safely. I am asking you now to observe that rule because that is for the Filipino people.
Time for an extra's look at some of the day's big stories. President Duterte says he will not allow ABS-CBN to operate even if Congress grants the network a new franchise. He wants the network to first settle its unpaid taxes. The BIR had said in the past that the company is not tax delinquent. The president says he will leave investigations into the matter to the ombudsman. After photos of his Iloilo and Boracay trip last week emerged online, Palace spokesman Harry Roque clarifies he was only exposed to his COVID-positive staff upon his return to Manila. He also noted that he turned out negative for the virus after the trip. And the driver partners of ride-hailing firm Auto lodged a complaint against the LTFRB re-accreditation of the company. They allege that Auto has been using the kill switch whenever they're unable to pay back dues, and the feature was originally intended to avoid carnapping. The LTFRB says they were not aware of any complaints prior to the accreditation renewal of Auto. The agency says it will now look into the matter. Let's pause for a quick break. When we come back, the Agriculture Department is also looking into setting a price cap on imported pork and chicken. And the Population Commission is pointing to online activity as a factor in teenage pregnancy surge. The details later.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. Circling back to our topic earlier to discuss more about the controversial red tagging remarks of anti-insurgency spokesperson Antonio Perlade, we have with us this evening AFP Chief Lieutenant General Cirilito Sobejana. General, welcome to the Chiefs.
Robbie and Gretchen.
Sir, clarify lang po natin, is General Parlade under investigation? Is he facing any sanctions or any disciplinary measures with regards to his conduct and his words against Ted Torres of the Inquirer?
Robbie, initially, the Secretary of National Defense, Secretary Lorenzana, directed me to talk to General Parlade. And this morning or yesterday afternoon, I read over the news that he's directing me to investigate. So this morning, I called the attention of the AAP Provost Marshal to engage with the National Task Force to end the local communist armed conflict, particularly the Strategic Communication Committee. Dahil General Parlade is the designated spokesperson of that of the NDF-LCAC.
So, General, linawin po lang natin. So, you were directed to investigate, but what is the direction of that investigation? Is it just to check what went wrong with the communications protocols and systems of NTF-LCAC, or does it have a direction to also looking at accountability and possibly disciplining General Parlade?
Well, we are looking into the accountability of his statement dahil one of media practitioner was branded as supporting the local terrorist group based on based on the report published about the two ETAs that accordingly na maltreat daw ng mga sundalo. At this afternoon nakikita natin na there was no truth to that report naman. In fact, na-junk na yung petition was junked by Solicitor General Calida. So tama yung sinabi ni ni General Parlade na there was no truth to that report. There was no maltreatment that had happened. Ang hindi lang natin ma-establish yung binanggit ni General Parlade na si itong isang media practitioner ay supporter ng local terrorist group.
Yes, sir. And therefore, critics are calling General Parlade's actions and words as essentially an attack. Now, let's go back 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, the J2, the head of intelligence of the military, was taken off his post for over red tagging and wrong information regarding UP alumni. And then now, even Senator Ping Lacson, an author of the anti-terrorism law, is saying that Parlade's actions is not only wrong, but is actually damaging to government efforts to justify the anti-terrorism law against before the Supreme Court. Do you agree, and do you see the validity of these concerns, sir?
Kaya nga, Robbie, yung erroneous list na yan, tsaka yung allegation, ibabalik doon natin sa nagiging instruction ko na in doing our job, we should be very deliberate and exercise due diligence. It is better to talk less than talk a lot kung hindi naman tayo sigurado sa ating mga sinasabi. So, yun ang gusto naming ipairal sa organization. Certainly, we draw lessons from the mistakes we have made, no? And we continue to be a protector of the people and the defender of the territory. That's our core purpose. So it should not appear that we are the enemy of the people. In fact, we are their protectors.
Okay, General Sobejana, maraming salamat po. That was AFP Chief Lieutenant General Cirilito Sobejana. Some pork retailers in Metro Manila are still on pork holiday. That's a pork protest on the second day of the implementation of a price cap on meat products. The Agriculture Department expects pork supply to normalize this week. Shaila Francisco with the details.
Most of retailers can comply with the government-imposed price cap for pork and chicken products. This was the observation of a team led by the Agriculture Department during an inspection earlier today. According to the officials, prices of the products in various markets in Metro Manila fall within the price cap.
Kanina po, medyo nakasunod kami sa ganong presyohan. Kasi mababa po kasi yung nakuha na namin. Hindi natin ma-sure na gano'n ang mangyayari. Kasi meron talaga mataas, meron ding mababa.
But some retailers have decided not to open shops for the second day as they cannot source cheaper meat.
Ngayon wala kaming makuha. Hanggat hindi pa, wala pang katay, wala pa. Pero kung magkakaroon naman ng katay, walang problema.
To assist vendors, the local government of Quezon City is waiving rental fees for those who will close shops. The DA for its part has imposed a suggested retail price or SRP of 235 pesos of pork products among traders and dealers.
Na yung wholesale price ay ESRP na natin. So gusto natin banggitin na yung SRP for wholesale ay 235 pesos para mayroon ng masapat na kita ng trader doon o yung wholesaler. O tapos ibigay na sa retailer, sa vendors, sapat pa rin yung kita niya within the price cap.
But this did not sit well with the Manila Meat Dealers Association, saying some may not be able to comply.
Yan lang yung suggestion nila na kung kaya namin gawin. Kung di naman kaya, wala naman din siya magagawa.
Aside from the SRP, the DA is also offering loans with zero interests for the capital of vendors. Agriculture Secretary William Dar has promised to bring in pork from Mindanao and Visayas to quell the supply problem in Metro Manila. But in an interview with One News Agenda, the Pork Producers Federation described this as fake news. The federation said farm gate prices range from 180 pesos to 200 pesos, but the DA insists that it can go as low as 144 pesos.
Kaya sila hindi nagkasundo. Yung sinasabi niya na 10,000 every week na baboy na dadating dito sa Metro Manila, ay drawing yon, fake news. Sapagkat nakakausap natin yung presidente, ilang samahan doon, ay ang gusto nga nila 180. So hindi sila nagkasundo.
Briones is calling on the agency to hold a summit to give stakeholders a platform to air their concerns. The DA explained that logistic issues hounded the first 2 days of the price cap implementation. But the DA said on One News' The Chiefs, they are hoping that the supply of pork will normalize in a week as entry of more hogs is expected.
Dumating kanina umaga at nandyan na sa pier about 5,400 heads of hogs. At alam naman natin na ang Metro Manila, there is about 4,000 of hogs being slaughtered every day. So nakita namin na mayroon tayong mga supply na nandyan, dumarating every now and then, at we can see this stabilizing within the week.
As for imported pork and chicken products, the Trade Department is still finalizing the SRP and price ceiling. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo says there is enough fiscal space for the proposed Bayanihan 3 law. On Business World Live, the lawmaker said the proposed 420 billion peso stimulus package could be financed by balance from loans made last year. She is urging economic managers to assess the country's current cash position. The lawmaker noted, though, that stimulus packages will go to waste if the country does not have any effective vaccination program.
All Bayanihan packages will just become completely wasted unless we're able to effectively open up our economy by way of expanding the coverage of vaccination.
The number of teenage mothers in the country has consistently increased in the past 9 years, and the internet may have played a huge role for the spike. Why is that? JC Cosico tells us.
14-year-old Micah should have been in 5th grade this school year.
But poverty has hampered her chance for an education. With more time at hand, her grandmother says she always goes out with friends.
Minsan pag sa gabi alam namin tulog, yun na lumalabas sa gabi. Hindi namin alam na barkada ba. Minsan alam niyo may barkada. Minsan alam namin yan, ano siya yung yayayain ba. Sampo ko kakain sa labas, yung pala, hindi na namin nangyayari na pala.
Now, Micah is 3 months pregnant and her partner is 22 years old. With all these at hand, her grandmother says they had no choice but to accept her fate. Micah is just among the alarmingly increasing number of minors getting pregnant in the country. The Commission on Population and Development says pregnancies among girls aged 15 and below had increased by 7%, from 2,250 cases in 2018 to 2,411 in 2019. This is equivalent to almost 7 minors giving birth every day. This is also 3 times higher compared to data from the turn of the millennium, where over 700 pregnancies were recorded in the age group. Popcom sounded the alarm on the issue, considering that the number has been rising for 9 straight years now since 2011.
Immediate effect ng pagbubuntis sa kabataan ay nagda-drop out sila, no? Sa kanilang pag-aaral, and most often hindi sila nakapabalik sa eskwelahan. And when that happens, yung batang ina has fewer opportunities for good employment.
The agency says the internet has played a big role on why some children are sexually active. It also cited a 2013 survey where 85% of 15 to 19-year-olds have their own phones and access to the internet.
It was shown in some regions na the earlier you go into the internet, the earlier you engage in premarital sex.
Perez says most of the minors are also from the poor sector and might be victims of rape and abuse. Popcom is now in talks with the Social Welfare Department for the creation of a social protection program for teenage mothers and their children. The agency also said the approach in resolving this issue should be through community-based comprehensive sex education of teenagers and their parents, not just school-based. However, some parents and teachers are not just ready to talk about the issue.
Ang sinasabi ng mga magulang in most surveys like the National Demographic Health Survey, they are not prepared to talk about sexuality with their children. Eh yung mga teachers din, sinasabi nila, parang hindi kami handang magturo niyan.
Non-government organization Save the Children Philippines highlights the role of families in children's formation. For its part, women's group Gabriela will push to increase the age of statutory rape from 12 to 16. They're also seeking a review of the reproductive health law to introduce amendments and address what they call a lack of access to sex education. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
Let's take a look at the biggest stories on print and online. From the Philippine Star, AstraZeneca's emergency use approval in the Philippines stays. This despite reports of its failure in preventing the South African variant. The FDA notes that the infectious variant is still absent in the country. Around 5.5 million doses of AstraZeneca will arrive this month via the COVAX facility. And this from Business World, McDonald's Philippines has closed 30 stores last year due to expired leases and financial instability. Its brand holder in the country, Golden Arches Development Corporation, posted a net loss of 967 million pesos as of September last year. Their store count is still at 655 after it opened 16 new stores despite the pandemic. And for those who still want to get married despite the health crisis, going virtual might just be a legal option. Kabayan Congressman Ron Salo has filed a bill legalizing virtual weddings. For Salo, it doesn't matter if the solemnizing officer is remote as long as the couple are in one location. A disapproving CBCP told News 5 in a phone interview, it is a sacred ceremony that should not be done in just any manner. Time for another quick break. When we return, After a backlash from motorists, transportation officials are now looking into lowering inspection fees for car registration. And I spoke to young hoopster Kai Soto as he awaits the day that he gets to join the rest of the Gita squad. Our one-on-one interview next.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Senators grilled transportation officials for having implemented a new and more costly inspection system for motor vehicles. The agency insists the new system is essential to addressing the so-called silent pandemic, that is, road accidents. Mian Los Baños with the details.
No public consultations. For local government units, this led to the exorbitant inspection fee of 1,800 pesos under the Motor Vehicle Inspection System or MVIS.
Ang dami nung nakuha ng trabaho, ang dami mong nangangailangan ng assistance from the government. And then ita-timing pa natin ngayon ang pag-implement nito. Ito sa amin, the motorists still have to undergo an emission testing sa ibang lugar na naman po, and that's an additional 450 pesos again.
During the Senate hearing, the Land Transportation Office clarifies emission tests should be included in the MVIS fee, but senators questioned if the rate went through proper channels.
Kapag nag-increase tayo ng fees, kailangan naman ng NEDA for review. Okay, dumaan ba ito sa NEDA? Hindi dumaan.
No, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
LTO explained stakeholders were consulted for the MVIS fee. It is now looking into the possibility of lowering the fees. But senators had one more question. Why were inspection duties delegated to private companies?
Following the principle of non-further delegation, it appears that there should be no further delegation. However, we have been authorized to call upon private agencies, public or private agencies, to assist us.
That would charge that you are delegating a delegated power to the private sector for a fee.
And with just 140 centers for 12 million vehicles, Senator Recto believes this is a monopoly. DOTR, however, said that Secretary Tugade already decided to increase it to 300. Some motorists also complain that MVIS tests are inconsistent.
Basketball sensation Kai Soto is back in the country as he prepares to suit up for Gilas Pilipinas in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. In an exclusive interview, I got to talk to him on how he's been strengthening his game and how he deals with pressure on and off court. Let's watch this.
From 7'2" to 7'3", Kai Soto is growing, literally and figuratively, in his quest for the NBA dream. After almost 2 years of training in the United States, the 18-year-old Wonder Kid is back home to suit up for the national team.
How's life been in quarantine?
I make the most of it. Nag-request ako for a bike para to stay active, and nag-request din ako dumbbells. Tas yung mga para sa workout ko, got to stay active during quarantine.
Abot mo na ba yung ceiling? Patingin nga. Subukan mo nga abutin.
Abot ko yung ceiling, hindi nga ako jump ropes kasi tumatama sa ceiling.
Soto says he's excited to bring all of his learnings to the hard court. And although he's familiar with Coach Tab's system, he says he still has a lot to work on, including gelling with the Gita squad.
Gusto ko lang ngayon na makipag-bond ng maayos sa mga magiging teammates ko dahil yung mga halos lahat na mga players sa Gilas is first time ko sila makakasama.
But while hopes are high for Kai's inclusion in the Gilas pool, Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas President Al Panlilio cautioned against putting too much pressure on the young cager.
But he's still only 18, so much things to be done. He's still just developing as a person, as a player. So let's give him space. Let's support his journey.
If there's one thing keeping Kai grounded amid all the pressure and challenges, it's family.
Parang teammate ko na din siya. Alam mo, parang friend, parang tatay, parang teammate, parang coach, parang all in all siya eh.
Kung si Daddy, coach mo, si Mami naman, anong role niya?
Para sa akin, mama ko yung pinakamagaling magluto sa buong mundo.
The young hoopster also talked about his passion project, the Kaiju Sports Academy.
Yung Kaiju is it's Japanese for big monster. Yun lang yung parang gusto kong maging dating sa akin na to be a beast on the court. So, yun.
What is your message for the kids?
Believe in yourself lagi and kailangan mong magsipag and lagi mo tatandaan na may purpose ka sa buhay.
Gilas sponsor Smart Communications supports Kai and the country's young talents.
He is breaking the glass ceiling for Filipino basketball players, and I'm sure a lot are inspired that they too have a chance of making it as a global player someday.
Kai Soto will see action with the rest of the Gilas Pilipinas squad in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers in Doha later this month.
The big monster,
Wow.
Kaiju.
Tangkad talaga, no?
Oo, 7'3".
Kasi kahit sa Zoom, nakatingala ka sa kanya.
Now, if you want to catch the full interview, you can check out my social media pages. I plugged the link there. But please do follow the Puso Pilipinas pages on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we are spreading the Filipino athlete story. And that wraps up today's big story. My name is Gretchen Hall. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.